rituals of having to empty piss jars of my drunken parents, of having to be in between fist fights and my mom lighting the house on fire and beating the hell out of me. To me, on my birthday at 9 years old, literally, I can still feel it like it was yesterday. Her just with everything she can punching me right in the face. So it was literally chaos and fear. And the biggest thing I remember about it is never having any food. I was always in search of food. I was always scared and hungry. The beauty part about it is once you heal, you have to give the positive. So I tell you all the negative things that my parents did. They did the best they could. They didn't know any better. They were beat and abused as children, so they were doing the same thing forward. It's the cycle of abuse. Well, guess what? It stopped with me.
Well, Kelly Siegel, welcome to Passion Love Pursuit podcast. So happy to have you.
Erica, it's always a pleasure being with you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm excited to turn the tables because I was just on your show, Harder Than Life podcast, and I loved our conversation because we really got into the depths. And it was just a genuine flow of conversation. So I just want to turn the table on you and get to know you a little bit more and also extract all the lessons and tools you have learned through your very hard journey of life, if you want to say, and how you got on the other side of it through personal development, through learning more about yourself, and releasing the things that are no longer serving you. So we'll get into that. But I want to first acknowledge you because I was able to meet you in person recently in Dallas with Amberly Lago for her Unstoppable Summit. And it was such a great time, first of all, but I loved meeting you in particular because your energy just radiated in the room. And what I realized most of you in the conversations we had, but especially seeing you in person, is you're just so authentic. You just really, you're there with your heart wide open. You're there to serve. You're there to, interact with others and have conversations that have great depth and value. And I just really want to acknowledge that with you because I don't think you've always been this way. And we're going to talk about this today because you being authentic, you being vulnerable, you heart wide open. I know you had to go through a journey for you to get to this point. And so let's just start there. Let's open up the doors. Let's reveal to those listening, what did Kelly go through that led him onto the path to then become the Kelly is who he is today?
Well, first of all, thank you for all those kind words. You know what I feel when I hear that, because it's confirmation that you've done the work and that if you don't need it anymore because I've healed, but it feels good. It's like when you see after a good workout, you see your muscles are all tight. Like, yes. So I'm going to mess with you a little bit because you'll remember this when I say this. That's our second time meeting, but the first time was in LA at Craig's event. And the difference is that's the difference in the two times. You caught me in the middle of really grinding on myself, and now I'm kind of through it all. So where we did meet, we took a couple pictures, but then boom, you got to feel the real, authentic, genuine Kelly Siegel. So where it all started as a child, just like yours did. Where we differ just a little bit, where I was told I wasn't good enough. I was abandoned. I was beaten. You name it, it happened to me. And I say that only so people that are listening to your podcast and know that, hey, maybe you're in this, if they're young, you're in a situation like this, you can overcome it. Maybe you're a little older and you grew up in a situation like that and you're still drinking the poison and expecting your parents to die. Here's two people that overcame it and are living their best life. And for those of you, I know that everybody knows that you're about to get married and how beautiful you are. You look at me, I have 2 homes, 2 boats, 2 Harleys, a successful IT company, a top 20 podcast. You too can make a difference and matter if you just do the work. But nothing works if you don't. So it really is very simple. It's you look right into that abyss, that thing that just scares the crap out of you. You say, you name it, and you say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to live this way anymore. And you jump off of life's merry-go-round because all you're going to end up doing is puking. So jump on that roller coaster, go up and down, and there's going to be lots of them, and enjoy them. Because I'm telling you, it's not about a destination, Erica. It's about all those ups and downs. That's living. I just was talking to a guy at the gym this morning. He's 65 years old. He's exiting his company. He's going to get millions of dollars. And he looked at me and goes, dude, this does not feel like it. I thought it would. And he says, now what? And I said, it's what I'm doing right now. I'm in the middle of a grind, launching a coaching program, launching a new sales offering at National Technology Management. Nothing feels like it's working, but I know I'm alive and I'm enjoying it. We're part of that down and up on that roller coaster. And if that thing ever flattens out, you're dead. Up, right. Down, up, down, up, down. Let's have some fun. And I keep reminding myself that because we're not here forever. You can't take any of this stuff with you. So enjoy the ride.
Okay. I love that pep talk. We all needed that, right? That's a great way to start. But you kind of glassed over your past. So I want to go a little deeper, please, because I want people to have context of where you came from and how you're where you are today and what did you need to do to get to where you are today, most importantly. But I would like if you could kind of, open the door a little bit further and tell us more about your past, of your upbringing and how, because it's quite horrific.
Yeah.
And I'm sure now you could, hear that without possibly feeling like a victim to it, right? I say this kindly, right? But I want people to understand where you came from.
I appreciate that. You're right. You know what happens when you really heal? You forget that the devil's in the details. And I wrote it all in my book, Harder Than Life. If you're watching this on YouTube, get it on Amazon. And yeah, I daily rituals of having to empty piss jars of my drunken parents, of having to be in between fist fights and my mom lighting the house on fire and beating the hell out of me. To me, on my birthday at 9 years old, literally, I can still feel it like it was yesterday. Her just with everything she can punching me right in the face. So it was literally chaos and fear. And the biggest thing I remember about it is never having any food. I was always in search of food. I was always scared and hungry. So those are still two of my triggers. Although I don't think I can be scared anymore. But if I get hungry, look out. So the beauty part about it is once you heal, you have to give the positive. So I tell you all the negative things that my parents did. They did the best they could. They didn't know any better. They were beat and abused as children, so they were doing the same thing forward. It's the cycle of abuse. Well, guess what? It stopped with me. So I wish I could say I did it right away, but I went on a 20, 25-year bender of kind of doing the same stuff. I drank because I wanted to fit in with all the outcasts, and I achieved financial success, but had nothing in me spiritually, emotionally. I was just there. So I just woke up one day and I was in Key West, Florida, and I said, there's more to life. I got to figure it out. And I just took a drink and put it down. And that was where everything changed. I quit drinking for 90 days. After 90 days, I said, I think I'm going to go another 90 days. And after 180 days, I went, I'm done. Life is just getting so good. And then the real work began. That it wasn't until I officially said I'm taking my last drink that the real major downloads of all the childhood trauma came out. And it was violent, Erica. And
sure.
And then as it was all downloading, we had this thing called the pandemic where it shut the whole world down. So I had no company to go to work to. My ex-wife and ex-girlfriend decided to get together and take away my kid. There were no way I was a completely and utterly alone, back to being a child again, alone, scared, And it was I had two choices. It was suck it up and run right into it, or fall right back into my old habits. And I keep a full bar at all my houses. So I looked over at my alcohol and I went, it's been a year and a half. A scotch would be pretty good right now. But I knew that if I took a drink of that scotch, that all hell would break loose. I'd show up at my ex-wife's house with a gun because I carry guns, and I would never see my kid. And at that very moment, Erica, is the turning point of my life. That's where I decided, okay, God, I looked up at God and I said, you made me, and you know that you're not going to break me. So I know this is a test, but dang, it's a good one. And I grabbed a cigar and I went on a long drive and I hatched the plan of how I was going to first get my daughter back,
Wow.
make sure my employees were okay at NTM. And then I delved head on into major personal development. I hired a hypnotherapist. I went double time on my talk therapy. I started listening to podcasts. I started reading like a book a day, and I just declared war on myself. And it was about 3 to 4 months later, I kind of broke out of that funk. I got my daughter back in like 3 or 4 days. And then NTM started winning, and then the world started opening back up. And then I went on a massive 18-month winning spree. And then now we're back down again. And I've been on a year down in the dumps. And I say that we've also launched Harder Than Life brand, which the podcast is blowing up. The book went bestseller. We're already working on book number 2. So I am a walking, talking roller coaster of life. And I enjoy every minute of it. So is there more? I asked you a couple of tough questions and you got real vulnerable. I will assure you, I've done the work. I did, and as well as hypnotherapy. Sorry, my brain thinks faster than I can talk. As well as hypnotherapy, talk therapy, I did EMDR therapy and I did plant medicine. So it was like a lot of things to crack this head, because it was bad. I mean, my sister left the house. She was 9 years older than me. She left the house when I was 8. Thank God she showed up when I was 9, the night that my birthday. She just came and stayed the night and saved me from the worst beating I've ever had. And recently I thanked her. I said, I can't imagine what it was like sitting in the room next door, hearing me get pummeled, and then have the courage as a 17-year-old girl to stand up to this monster that used to beat her. Because when my sister lived there, she used to get the brunt of it because she was older. And then when she left, I got it. And she said, I got to get you out of this house. And I lied to the social workers and said, everything's fine. No, I'm not being abused. And, I wish I had the courage I have now to say, hey, so if any kids are listening and any of this stuff, it's not normal. Go to somebody, reach out to me, reach out to Erica. She's been there. We've both been there. You matter, and you mean something, and it's not right, man. That's not right. I didn't get into like no food. I'm 10 years old when I need food. Well, I always wonder, like, what did they think I ate? I went to the store and stole, and I know that they knew I was stealing, but they didn't care because they knew that was probably the only thing I was going to eat that day. The only guaranteed food I got was the free lunch at school Monday through Friday.
Wow, Kelly. Okay. There's so much there. Let's unpack it a little bit. So first of all, one thing I appreciate that you mentioned, and I was going to ask you, like, knowing what you know now and the personal development you've done, I know we come to this point in our life when we take responsibility for how we create our own madness or misery in our life. We come to also understand and accept what has brought us to where we are today. And so when you said, knowing what you know now, like your mom did the best she could from where she came from, and she came from tremendous abuse too. And it's horrible to even think that, but the realization, you as an adult, when you get to the point where you're like, it is not okay. I can't forgive what was done to me. There's no way, like, no way possible I can forgive those actions. But with understanding, and I always think about this with, like, I always think of the full picture when I'm talking to somebody, and I think about, well, it's not like they're intentionally, they hate you and they want to hurt you. They're hurt themselves. That's why the cliche saying, hurt people, because it's so true. And so anyways, the fact that you mentioned that, I was going to ask you that question, like, why do you think she did that? And that's the reality. And I love how you say is you're breaking the cycle. Sorry, did you want to?
Remember that's, so just so everybody knows who hasn't done the work or listen, casual listener to this podcast, that's where you get yourself tripped up, is your thought is a magical lie. I thought for so many years I was unlovable. I was irrelevant. I was invisible. So I made that my reality for many, many, many years. And what happened is I kept doing the same thing over and over and over and over, expecting a different result. And I kept creating the relationships in my life like my mother, and it just never served me. So until I became what I wanted, then I attracted better. And now I'm in a healthy relationship with someone that's very loving, and it's not even reciprocal. They bring 100%, I bring 100%, and we take it to the next level. I've never had anything like that. It's
Wow.
unfamiliar. It's not, everybody goes, oh, it's weird. No, it's not. It's unfamiliar. I've never done it before. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's freaking great. That's what it's supposed to be. So yeah, we end up drinking the poison, and I forgave them for me. I haven't forgotten it, but I've forgiven it. And in EMDR, if you've ever done it, you basically assign logic to an emotional situation. So in that beating that my mom was giving me on my birthday, I was like, why? I took it. I'm unlovable. I don't matter. I'm stupid, because she was beating me over a Walkman that I broke. That was my dad bought it for me for my birthday. I thought it was stupid because I fell asleep with it and broke it. That was what my brain told me. What I did, and when I worked on EMDR, was that was my mother. Now this makes no sense, but this is how I processed it, and I'm just going to share it with you because somebody else it'll resonate with them. Is my mom was making me tough for this tough world. Now, what did they teach me? A lot of things. If you look, you've seen me. I'm a big, muscular guy. My stepfather was a big dude, and he used to beat on me. So I made myself tough. So now when I walk into rooms, everybody notices me. He also taught me that with making me, whenever I didn't empty that pee jar, he would just throw it on my bed and it would make a bigger mess. So I would have to clean something up twice. So I learned do things right the first time. And so there are lessons. My stepfather also taught me the early bird gets the worm. So I can sit here and say, screw them. And now there is a downfall to this. I do not talk to them. They are not allowed in my life. They're alive. They're I don't know. I haven't talked to them in 20 years. That was was my compromise. Have I forgiven them? Yes. Do I want them in my life? Absolutely not. She reached out to me for my book and tried to sue me, and then just said, well, I just want to meet my granddaughter. And I said, absolutely not. She doesn't want to meet you. She knows the whole story, wants nothing to do with you. So, there's some positive, and I give them credit for that. They taught me a lot of good things. But man, there was some of those magical lies that I put in my head. If you read Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy, that's really what it's all about. We're all worthy. And we all matter. So I keep going back to that, because that thought that got you through that ordeal. And one of the weirdest things that I learned was one of the times that I wouldn't get beat was when I would serve them drinks, my parents' drinks. And then they'd want me to drink with them at 9, 10, 11. So I was taught alcohol was safe, and it was camaraderie.
A way to get love. And also a way to get love.
Yes, love. That was, Erica, you just nailed it, because on my search for love, and I would assume, I didn't get in it deep with you, but I was assumed we did talk a little bit about it on my podcast, but our quest to be loved. And you know what the thing is? You get it from yourself. And once you get it from yourself, you become magnetic. And then it comes back to you. And that's the energy you were picking up, because I love you. I said it to you 1,000 times on the podcast, and you know I do. And I love everybody that was there that I know, when I get to know them. And, I had a blast with John Gordon. I love me some Amberly. And then I got a new friend, Ben Newman. So it was just a great time. And
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be able to
Well,
do this.
yeah, thank you so much. So it's so true that they're through, and we all, when we get on the other side, we're able to then, be able to look at things a little differently with a more enlightened mind, if you want to say, where we can look at, well, this taught me this. Like, for example, I'll share something as you're speaking about it. It's like, me not uh, loving somebody else more than myself taught
Mm,
me then when I was on the other side that I was just pushing the love away from myself, like the
mm,
love that I need to cultivate within myself. And so, me putting somebody else's importance or putting more importance on somebody else is when I'm rejecting the love for myself. And so, that taught me like what's really here and what I need to work on is actually just loving myself. And so my relationships always mirrored that lack of love I had for myself. And so I would tolerate certain things and I would devalue who I was in the process of the relationships. And so, like you said, there is a way when you're able to turn the mirror on yourself and have that accountability, like, wait, okay, like I mentioned, I play a part in my own misery. So how am I playing a part and why? And start like dissecting it. Well, why? Like peeling the onion. Why? Why do I keep on doing this and asking those questions? But the most important is being honest with the answers. You have to have that radical honesty because I think so many of us will, without knowing it, be a victim to our circumstances. But when you're actually able to take accountability for how you played a part in it, then you could actually change. And now you're empowered to become the person you wish to become. And that's kind of what sounded like you did. You took your cigar, you went for a drive, and you started writing down, okay, like these are the steps. This is what I got to do. And so I would love to go a little back and talk about the alcohol a little bit and drugs and whatnot, because as you said, I think a lot of people have a sort of addiction, whatever it may be, obviously commonly a substance, to suppress and hide and ignore really what's going on beneath it. And we've come to understand what that was for you. So, not many people could just quit that thing that is, if you want to say, suppressing, sorry, not suppressing, using something to avoid what is really going on, especially when you're using it for so long. So, how did you do that? Because a lot of people need to go to AA, they have this addiction, they can't just quit all of a sudden. So, what in you was different? And how could somebody listening to that today recognize their addictions that are there just to mask what's really going on?
Now remember, the easiest ones. Your question is so beautiful, and it's so kind. Thank you. And what you're explaining is the familiar misery that our subconscious is used to. Our subconscious is always trying to create this, just the familiarity, even if it's bad. They want to be able to know, to be able to control things. And what can we definitely control? Negativity. I can very easily, I know if I take a drink, I know what's going to happen next. That it's even the control of negativity it's a familiarity that makes you comfortable.
Hmm.
And that freaking little hamster wheel is hard to get off of. And you know what? When the benefit, the cost outweighs the benefit, you give it up. I just, I, I realized that I was seeking love at the bottom of a bottle with I'm going to be blunt. I'm just going to say this, and I apologize. I was a drunken whore, and I would attract drunken whores. And I got sick and tired of it because I wanted love. I deserved love. I earned love. I wanted love, but I knew that I couldn't meet someone to love me the way that I was going to love them drinking at a bar. And so when I did that, I elevated myself and I was I was damn right. Now, the universe really freaking throws challenge after challenge after challenge at you. It really does. And boy, it'll throw someone masked as somebody different just to see if you've changed. So
Right.
it comes with a lot of no's. No, I had to say no. And then when I thought I was healed, they sent me another girl, and I was like, this one's the one, and it was here, and she's here, and whoa, boy. But I was healed enough that I was able to spot it and get out of it before the tornado got me that would happen. So, what happens too when you're unhealed, and I can only speak from a man to a woman. I've done a lot of reading. I've read all of Brene Brown's books and every woman's version of the book, You Are a Badass from Jen Sincero. And I believe this to be true for both sexes, but I'm just going to tell you what I've experienced is women that I would meet would show me who they want to be. And I would fall in love with that person. And then a second that it got serious and the vulnerability was supposed to happen, that's when they pulled away and had to sabotage the relationship. And that's when I'm like, so they all want to be that, but aren't willing or don't know how to do the work. Now, the work is very hard, which is back to your question. How in the hell did I do it? My uncle said to me, I'm one of the weirdest people he's ever met. I do this switch all on or all off. There's no in between. So it's like seconds to first loser. Either you're first or you're last. So, that's what makes me a great leader too, because when I spot an issue, we're going to hit it with everything we got. So how you do anything is how you do everything. I'm not going to sit here and tease it. I don't have time for that. I want to rip that Band-Aid off and go right to it. Do I recommend doing that if you're addicted to alcohol and drugs? Absolutely not. It was not easy. I sat here in a ball in my living room crying more than I knew what to do with. Now remember, there was nobody around to cry to as a child, so I never cried. I cry more now over happiness than I did any time as a child. But when I was going through it during the pandemic, I just let all these emotions come out. So AA is a popular thing. Everybody knows about AA if you're or Narcotics Anonymous, if you're addicted to drugs but the success of those programs, and I'm not trying to disparage because there's certain people that I know and that live and die by those programs. That works for some people, but there's a lot of people it doesn't work for. So and they're all over my podcast. If you need introduction to somebody and you're listening to this podcast, DM me, kelly.siegel.71 on Instagram, and I'll introduce you to people. I interviewed 3 coaches, alcohol coaches, that will tell you why you drink. And here's a great news flash. You don't have to go all or nothing. I know 2 of the coaches that talk about just rethinking drinking. How do you drink? What you assign to the meaning of drinking. Right. So it's quite contrary to what AA says. You don't have to, admit that you're powerless of alcohol. That was the first problem with me too, is if I'm able to walk away from it, I wasn't powerless. So I had to kind of do it my own way. But there's many, many, many resources. If you DM me, there's plenty of books about it. I just read one from Amanda Kuda called Unbottled Potential. It was such a good book. Now, she happens to be one of the people that believes that you can't have any drinks. I prescribe to that too. I live such a good life that if you do the work, I'm vibrating at a 10 all the time. You just said it. All the time. I would never want to have a drink to bring me down. Ever. Yeah. So there are many resources. How I did it, it's just the negatives. All the bad things in my life, every single one of them, Erica, was correlated to alcohol. What am I doing? Now, some people do it with scrolling. Some people do it with swiping. Some people do it with just talking to their friends in misery. Whatever you go to, whatever crutch you go to, I assure you, if you just sit in your shit and feel it and name it, breathe through it, journal, meditate, and therapy, it will pass. But you said at the very end, you cannot lie to yourself. You cannot.
Yep. So, okay, so mic drop right there, because this is what the healing work is being honest with yourself of why you're going to this. And also, like, you came to, again, you were asking yourself those questions and bringing awareness to the behavior and your outcome and where, everything lined up, and you again were honest with the answers you were getting, and then that's where you were able to be like, no more. I can't do this anymore. And so you made the choice, and take responsibility for your life to actually get a different result. So I think anybody listening right now, this is what the healing work is. It's about, and best thing is, if you've never done it, exactly, get a journal and start like just writing your thoughts, writing, even just writing questions to yourself, and just write without judgment. That's the great thing about journaling, is there's no judgment. Like, when you sometimes talk to your friends, there might be banter back and forth, or people might give their opinions, and it could just distort really what's going on. So I think, and that's why therapy is good, because it's a non-judgmental person that you're, unloading all your thoughts to. But journaling is great because you could get it all out. All these things that you've pushed away and tucked away for so long, you could actually bring to awareness, and then start to be really radically honest with yourself. And that's when your life changes. So the healing work, so good. And you obviously shared a lot of your healing tools that you did. But one thing you did share, I believe this is your personality. And part of your personality did come from your childhood, as you mentioned, like your father, the PJAR, and basically you're like, I learned that I do the thing right the first time. There is no second time. And so I know that served you in a lot of ways in your business, and also creating success in everything that you do. So not everybody is like you. So I would love to talk about, how does somebody build discipline and consistency when maybe they don't have that drive like you do? So what would you suggest?
Oh,
Where
that's
should they begin?
ooh, gut punch. First of all, let me tell people, the contrast is everything. So I have been a party animal, and now I'm a boring winner. I can do both. I could go have a drink. I could do either one. And if I choose this one, assure you, this is the best one. So when people try to say to you, "Oh, why don't you just have one?" Like, hey, this is working for me. I will admit, my book starts when I'm 30 in Koh Phangan, Thailand, at the full moon party, and I knew at 30 that I had to make changes. I did not make those changes at 43. Everybody in the personal development field says, "Oh, I don't have any regrets. Everything happened the way it's supposed to." I have a regret. I wish I would have
Mm.
gotten half of those 13 years back. Half. Because imagine the people I could be helping right now. The Harder Than Life brand is all for charity. So what we bring in, we divvy it up between two children's charity and an addiction charity. So I wish I would have been started, because we've been doing this for a little over a year and we're already making a big headway. So if I would have been doing this for 7 years, I could be up there with John Gordon and Ben Newman as well. So having said that, the original question was, what do people do that is a very easy question, but it's hard to do. It is
Yeah,
keeping the promises you make to yourself
that's so
over
good.
and over and over again. The good news with me is I was really good at that. Really good at that. I said I was going to go to the gym. I said I was going to go do this. I would be at basketball practice as a kid. My word was gold, and my word is gold to me plus you. Now, I will tell you, I am in the thralls of an NTM right now. I reached a certain level, and different levels, you reach different devils. So I have got to that bear it down and grind and just go, go, go isn't working right now.
Mm,
So I'm doing, you're a spiritual person. So I'm doing I'm going to work, but I'm going to surrender and allow. And
love that.
and it's so unfamiliar, because all I've ever known was run through the wall, go, 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 go. So when you master one level, God's going to show you that you've mastered that level by giving you another test. And that's where I'm in. And so what I'd say to you is, just, if you say you're going to go to the gym, go to the gym. You say you're going to be doing something, do it. You say you're not going to swipe for the day. You say you're not going to smoke that day. do it. That builds the muscle in your brain that says you're tough and you can do it. And the reverse is very true too. And the reverse muscle is very weak. So, oh, it's okay. You didn't drink for 3 days. You deserve it. And then you overdo it.
Right.
You don't tell me one thing, one celebration that requires you to feel like crap the next day. Doesn't make any sense to me. So what kind of a celebration is that that's going to make me feel terrible? No, thank you. So that is the simplest and easiest thing. One more thing, you were talking about that journaling. So make sure that when you're journaling, and she said it right. I got a notebook right here, and I just write. And that's how the book started, by the way. I have the books, I have the notebooks where I wrote down everything in them. So I have like 6 different notebooks of me writing my thoughts that turn into a book. So it could turn into a book someday. But if it doesn't, you can also go back and look and see the correlations. I'm feeling crappy today. I'm feeling down today. And then go and see, and you'll find the correlations. And if you're not quite sure what you need to work on, the journal will tell you. And you just go back and see what that trigger is that made you feel that same way. And you'll know. It's a little small hack. I do it all the time. When I have a feeling that I can't quite, I star it and I put as close to the feeling I can, and I go back and look for when I felt that way before. And there will be a correlation.
Yeah.
And it might be a person. That's the worst part about it. It could be a person, and it could be a loved one. And that's the worst ones. But you can set boundaries. Everybody talks about boundaries and standards. I call them standards. You got to be this tall to ride this ride. You go below that, you're not going to be around me. You can do you. You can have all the fun you want. You're just not going to do it in my ecosystem. I need peace, clarity, and freedom. And the freedom isn't to move about the world. The freedom's right here, to have inner peace. And then so I can I have all the self-love in the world. I love me some me, and I'm going to give it to you.
Love it. Oh, so good. So let me ask you, you have a daughter, a teenage daughter that you adore so much, and I got to meet her. She's a sweetheart. And I love that you love your daughter. I love the love that I see and witness between you two. And because coming from where you came from, and we talked about breaking the cycle, do you ever find yourself, because I think it's hard to not do this, trying to protect her from pain, trying to protect her from things that maybe you need to get out of the way of? You know what I mean? Because I think it's hard to see your daughter in pain or to go through hard times that you possibly endured yourself. So I would love to know, how do you navigate that? And what have you learned through being a father of a teenager?
It's the same teenage girl, by the way. That's the hardest one. A beautiful young lady too. So the beauty part about being electively sober is that I'm present, very present. And she is my number one priority. So I have her about 60% of the time. So I never miss time with her, ever. I have her every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and every other Sunday. So when in Dallas, when I left you, I left at 6 o'clock in the morning to get home from my parenting time. And you bet your butt I was there. And the line was packed because they canceled all the flights the day before. So yes, to answer your question, I absolutely do. And you know what I've learned is the same story that I do at NTM. Different levels come different devils. And what I've noticed is all she needs, after reading all these women's books, all she needs is me to listen to her. She doesn't need me to do. She needs to be a safe landing spot and listen. You know how long I have tried to fix everything? And recently, I just listen, and then I make it safe. So this is, if she listens to this, she's going to hear my story, how I Jedi mind tricked her. Is she was at a party, which I knew there would be drinking at. This is what 15-year-olds are going to do. And I said, honey, if there's ever a time for you to try it, it's tonight, because you're with me. And I said, if you want to try it, go ahead. I took out all the cachet. She called me like 2 hours, Dad, come get me. People are drunk. I don't want to be here.
Nice.
And the kids are like, your dad won't know. She's like, first of all, my dad doesn't drink at all, so he'd know in a second. Second of all, he's super smart. Yes, you know. Third of all, I just don't want to.
Right.
And she's like, I'm out of here. So she was telling me, and I'm going to tell you this story because I know you'll love it. She told me just yesterday that one of her best friends makes fun of her nose, her own nose. She's like, and my daughter's answer to her was, why do you give the boys or anybody the ammunition to make fun of you? You're giving them your trigger. She's like, I walk around, and you're going to die laughing when I tell you this. I walk around and tell everybody I'm perfect. I go, so my daughter, I go, you tell everybody you're perfect? She's like, yep. She's like, even if I'm not, she's like, Dad, I'm a teenager girl and teenage high school girl. I have insecurities too. I go, like what? I go, that's the stuff I would say. I go, so you heard me say this before. I call myself the chosen one. I've been run over. I've been beaten. I've been stabbed. I've been shot at. I shouldn't be here. And yet I am. So there's got to be a reason. God chose me. So I'm the chosen one. I know I'm freaking here for a reason. She hears me say that, so she calls herself the perfect one.
Oh, that's cute.
But
Aw.
she doesn't get involved in all these things. And a question she asked me, I think it was about a year ago, she said, Dad, if I do all the things you tell me to do, I'm not going to have any friends. I said, oh, the right ones, you'll have the right ones, honey. You'll have the right ones. And that's the truth. When you vibrate at a high level, the people that aren't are going to be afraid of you and want to run from you. But that's what you want. That's what a standard and a boundary is. When you
You're
love
teaching
yourself,
character.
yep. And
I
you
mean,
did it
that's really
too.
what's
You
that?
did it too. You did it too. And that's why I wanted her to meet you, because
Oh,
I
you're so
want
sweet.
her to see women that are strong and powerful and lovely and kind, that embody every part of what it means of the feminine and the masculine.
Thank you for that, first of all, but it took work to get here too, right? Like I
Oh, I
had my
remember.
journey that, so
If you
it's
haven't
like,
heard it,
that's the thing is I understand, of course, anybody listening, like we all have our unique journeys and our own lessons that God has placed in front of us so that we could grow to our highest self. And I know we go down one path and God's like, here, no, this is like, the universe will always tell us really the direction we need to go, but it's very hard to actually listen, and we have to keep hitting our head on the wall until we learn the lesson, really. So I'd love to know, because going back into the healing work, books, you said you've read a lot of books. I would love to know, what are your top 3 that you're like, this is a book, either men listening, women, this is the book you need to read, this has served me massively in my healing journey?
oh man, I've had so
I
many.
know it's hard to.
The number one book was the Four Agreements.
Okay.
If
Love
I
it.
told you the story behind that, there was an ultimate betrayal that I experienced in my IT company, and the guy that betrayed me gave me that book, and I was like, I don't want to freaking read this book, and I threw it up on my bookshelf. And if you look over here, there's 1,000 books over here that I've read, and I was reading another book by Don Miguel Ruiz during the pandemic on my porch, and I was like, why does this look familiar? It was Mastery of Self, which is what we're really talking about keeping the promise you make to yourself. And I walk into, and I'm just going to grab it just for 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
I walk in to my bookshelf, and this is sitting on my bookshelf. And there's the note from this person that betrayed me.
Wow.
And he said, read this small chapter. And it was about creating heaven on earth. It's still there. Heaven on earth. There's the note. There it is. So I immediately finished the Mastery of Self, and I started reading this book. I've read this book probably 15 times. It's my favorite book
It's a
in the world.
staple.
And
Can
what's
I
the
just
number
tell
one?
you, I had the
Number
brothers on my podcast, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Don. I forgot his brother's name.
Yeah, I forget his brother's name too. It's not.
But I had them both on the podcast, and because Don Miguel Ruiz doesn't do interviews anymore, but they share the message, and he wrote The Mastery of Self, and that was it was a few years ago, but one of my favorite conversations. I was just blown away because I love the concept. It's really simplified. I mean, it's the Toltec wisdom, but it really is simplified for anybody to understand and implement into their life. So I love that you mentioned that one.
Yeah, it's so simple. I would love the introduction to them, by the way, because I literally buy every time I walk into a bookstore, and if these are there, I buy every copy
Yeah, Don Miguel
and I hand
Ruiz
them
for the
away.
whole family. Yeah.
So I would love an introduction because I probably pay their light bill, but it's the best book. Another book
Awesome.
was Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. Phenomenal.
Hmm. Okay, I
Um,
haven't read that, but I know the book.
there was a
That's
part in
great.
there about fitting in and belonging that literally, when I read it, I was in
I
my
love that.
Florida house reading in the sun, and I burst out in tears. And because it
Mm.
was at that very moment that I realized why I did what I did. And once I named it, it just released immediately. And boy, any
So many,
David
right?
Goggins books. I mean, there's just Will Smith's book. You know what I like? Green Lights by
Oh,
Matthew McConaughey. That was a great
yeah.
book. So,
Awesome.
so I just pick up a little bit from everyone. I had Skip Pritchard on my book, the Book of Mistakes. It's my second favorite.
Mm.
It teeter totters with the Four Agreements, but we're working on book number 2 now. It's going to be probably called Easier Than Life. Um,
I love it.
we're going to take the coaching program that we launched and we're going to put it into a book and talk about all the things that we just talked about. Because I've taken all this, I call it SOS, the Siegel operating system, and I just show people what to do and what the benefits are. And you can too be my life. I mean, you don't have to be as disciplined as I am, but consistency for sure. But yeah, and then there's another book that I think I'm sure you read, The Alchemist. That's the best book.
You know,
You
it's
ever read?
I mean, this seems mind blowing because I've read so many personal development books. I've read like ridiculous amount as well, and that's the one book I haven't read yet. It's
It's
always
so
on the
hard to
list.
read. It's so hard to read,
Oh, really? Okay.
but because it speaks in a different tongue. But I'll
Mm,
ruin it for you. At the end of he just goes through this life, looking for the meaning of life, and realizes
yeah.
that it's living it, and
Yeah,
he's
I love that.
living the meaning of the life. And it's just like I'm reading it, I'm like, what? Whoa! It's one of those like the Karate Kid where he's learning karate while freaking waxing the cars and sanding the floor, and it's like you're being mind uh, shaped while you're reading the book. But I mean, it can go on. So the books are the best thing in the world. I
I
don't
love
watch
books.
TV. So
Yeah.
it's like I just read and read. Look at right next to me. I got Jimmy Rex's book. I don't know if you know Jimmy. I got his book. I'm reading it right now because he's on the podcast next week. I know you've seen this one because she
Yep.
had to postpone Catherine's book, Relationship Grit. I am a learn it all sponge because
I
I'm going
love
to
it.
pay it forward. And if in my coaching group I can teach people anything, it sure in the hell isn't going to come from just me.
Right. I know. I mean, that's the thing is we're learning from so many other people and then we're able to at least extract like take away what could serve us and then serve it on to others through our, how we choose to share what we've learned through our own journey.
So
And
keep in
so
mind what they say: a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from somebody else's. Learn
so
from mine.
true.
I've made them all. I've made them all.
Oh, yeah, I think we're all there.
Yeah, you.
So
Yes, you did too. I forgot.
So actually it leads me to one of the things you mentioned with the alchemist. There's this saying that you only live once, but you have a different take on this, and I love to
Mm.
just like add this in.
Oh yeah, I love that one too, and it doesn't get much fanfare, and it really makes me feel loved and special that you like it. I believe you only die once. You live every day because you live in day tight compartments. So I can't do anything about yesterday. I can only do today, and there's not much I can do about tomorrow. The only thing I can do about tomorrow is live today. So uh, that's this whole living once. Because if you really do enough research, I think we live multiple lives. I can't.
Yeah.
It surely seems that way. I think I was some emperor somewhere in another past life, but yeah, it's just a little thing I like saying because I really believe it. I do. I want, and once I'm done with yesterday, it's yesterday. Then it's gone. I
Yeah.
I get a good night's sleep. I say my gratitude. I wake up, I say more gratitude, and I attack the day. In very few days are you going to see me down because life's too darn good.
So great. So appreciate that. I love that message. I think everybody could really look at things a different way just by hearing that message alone. So Kelly, I just want to close off in my question I ask all my guests, but before I do, where can people best find you?
Yeah, we have two spots. Come to kelly.siegel.71 if you want to hear more about our coaching program, the Siegel operating system. Right now, if you send me a DM and you say Erica, we'll give you 50% off the year program. We ask everybody to join for a year, and it's really affordable because remember, all this is for charity. We have an IT company; they pay the bills. This is for charity. We're going to make a big donation. DM me Erica, and we'll give you 50% off, and we're going to make you healthy, happy, and wise. But I've done it all. Built an a big seven-figure IT company, high seven-figure IT company, and soon to be eight-figure IT company from scratch. I found love after searching for it in all the wrong places. And obviously, if you look at me, I've got a six-pack and I'm 48 years old. So I know how to do all of it. And I believe that all three are imperative to a good life. Most of us have one, maybe two down pat, but to have all three, and I'm going to teach you the system to do it. So DM me, Erica, kelly.siegel, and then you can also go hardonlife.com.
Thank you so much. I'll include that in the show notes as well so people could make sure to get that massive discount. Thank you for offering
Appreciate
that.
You.
All right. So closing question. If you were to share a piece of wisdom, a life lesson that you have learned in your journey, and you just feel you need to shout it out to the world, what would that piece of wisdom be and why?
Man, I get asked this a couple times and it changes a lot, but I'm going to say this one, especially after the R2 relationship. I would tell you to work on yourself and work on yourself early and often, because a job is what you get paid for, but your life is work. It's your greatest masterpiece. You work on yourself and you'll live richly. Start it from early on, start the meditation. It's never too early. Becoming emotionally mature, it's called EQ. Man, you will be rich beyond all your life. So work on yourself as early as possible. I wish I did it. I didn't know anything about it. And in today's society, there's so many. You don't have to spend money. I'm asking people to come coach with me. You don't even have to. You can go on YouTube. You can read the books we just mentioned. You can go and listen to podcasts. It's all free. But then you do have amazing coaches who will help you, like Amber Lee, like Ben Newman, like me, who will teach you the tricks to accelerate you to forward quicker. But you got to do the work. Work works. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Oh, so good. So good, Kelly. I so appreciate you. This has been such a phenomenal conversation. So anybody that wants to learn more about Kelly, of course, you know where to find him. And I just appreciate this conversation. Thank you for sharing your heart, your vulnerability, your truth, so that we could live a more fulfilling life and to move past the past so that we can move forward in the present time.
Remember too, one thing, relationships are gold. I met you through Craig, and now look at us full circle. And the first thing I have is relationships over everything. And I love you. I see you. And I'm so, so grateful for you. And even when I'm not with you, I'm cheering you on.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I so receive that. And likewise, I so appreciate the energy you bring to every room and your heart. And it's seen, it's received, and appreciated in every which way. So thank you for your time and everything.
Love you, Dal.